I am now at Kabul International Airport in Afghanistan. During the evacuation of U.S. troops from this war-torn country last year, thousands of Afghans, especially those who had worked for the U.S. Army and companies, flooded to the airport to leave this country. 2 Afghans even tied themselves to parts of a U.S. military plane and fell down from the plane after it took off and died. In the military campaign that lasted 20 years, more than 30,000 civilians in Afghanistan were killed by U.S. forces or have died due to U.S.-led warfare, and some 11 million people have been displaced.
About 10 months after the 2 civilians deadly falling, the U.S. Air Force cleared the crew of the C-17 jet, saying they had exercised sound judgment in a rapidly deteriorating situation. During the 2-decade war in Afghanistan, the U.S. promised peace and stability and shelter for those Afghans who helped America and fought alongside the U.S. soldiers. But what many Afghans have got is the loss of home, family, and friends, as well as total betrayal and a gloomy outlook for the future. When locals recall those evacuation days, the trauma is still there like a scar in their minds.
It was an inhuman and immoral treatment. This was not a human interaction, and they did not think of us as human.
I heard and saw on TV that the Americans were also shooting. It did not work well. It was cruel.
The nightmare for locals did not end there, as bloodshed continued, even after the evacuation.
On August the 29th last year, a U.S. drone attacked against a vehicle in the yard behind me. The U.S. drone strike might have killed 10 civilians, including 7 children. American officials thought it was a vehicle contained an ISIS bomb and posed a threat to U.S. troops at Kabul's airport. But further investigation raised doubts about the U.S. version of the events and proved the victims innocent. Since invading Afghanistan in 2001, the indiscriminate killing of innocent people by the United States in the name of anti-terrorism has caused great suffering and pain to the local people in Afghanistan.
The photos of the 7 children killed in the so-called mistaken attack were hung up on the house front gate as a memorial. They also remind the locals to never forget the cruelty and brutality the U.S. had carried out here.
It was a very tragic scene and scary. I'm still terrified when recalling the bloody scene of bodies of innocent children and their family members lying and rolling in blood. Faisal and Farzad were my friends, and we played volleyball together and sometimes football in one team. Unfortunately, they were killed in the brutal drone attack and I missed them. The tragic incident, like a nightmare, would haunt me forever and even shocks me at night when I am asleep.
It was a brutal and utterly unjust attack, because the victims were innocent civilians and didn't belong to any political group. They were innocent and brutally killed in the drone attack. Seeing the tragic scene was heartbreaking. When I entered the attacked house, I saw all the family members of our neighbor were rolling in blood, and I could not bear to see the scene, and it was really tragic. The horrific scene would haunt anyone forever.